right, you might as well remain standing here, good evening, and my name is Tim White, and on behalf of the Exchange Club of San Ramon Valley, I want to welcome you all to our annual 9/11 Remembrance Ceremony. Now we're going to have the presentation of the colors by our Joint Honor Guard, represented by the Danville Police and the San Ramon Valley Fire Protection District, and will remain standing for our national anthem that will be performed by our Monte Vista Chamber Singers, directed by Rosalind Neisinger. Please remain standing for our invocation given by Hugh, Deputy Chief Chaplain and Vice Chairman of the U.S. Conference of Chaplains.
Please join me in prayer. Heavenly Father, 23 years. For some that may seem like such a long time ago. And while the horrific events of September 11th, 2001 were indeed that far in the past, today and every day they live on in our collective memory as if they had just happened. As painful as it may be, we as a nation dare not forget the tragedy that unfolded that day across our nation. On that sad day, we and the world were reminded that evil can strike anyone, anywhere, at any time. The events of 9/11 affected our nation, and indeed the entire world. Today, as we remember and reflect on those events, we will learn how some of that impact was felt by the members of our military. Lord, we thank you for the first responders and military members who daily answer the call to keep us safe and free. Today and every day, we ask for your blessing upon them, their families, and all those who daily struggle with the realities brought on by the events of 9/11. Continue to bless, guide, and comfort our nation along the path of healing. In your holy name we ask this. Amen.
Please be seated. You know, it seems not too long ago, but it has been 23 years, as Hugh said, since the terrorists attacked us on September 11th, 2001. And this is the day that we marked to never forget. We were stunned, sad, and angry, but we took great pride in our ability to bounce back and recover and respond. We're here today to honor our pledge to never forget by saluting the courage and the selflessness of victims and those that stood and continue to stand between us and those who wish to disrupt and destroy our way of life. We're honored here by the presence of many brave men and women, those who have faced danger and continue to protect our country and its citizens. Our first responders, fire crew, military, veterans, and law enforcement. Through the leadership of the Exchange Club of San Ramon Valley, our community has made it a tradition to join here together on this day in front of a memorial that reminds us that, unfortunately, freedom is not free. We've been able to gather with community leaders, public servants, our scouts, elected officials, and take a brief pause in our busy lives to pay tribute to those that have provided the ultimate sacrifice for freedom, and those that put their lives in danger each day, and their supportive families. Thank you all for being here to honor them. The Exchange Club is dedicated to fostering a spirit of patriotism and deep appreciation to the sacrifices which others have made for our country. In addition, the club's activities focus on maintaining a strong and safe community and strong families. And if you'd like to learn more about the Exchange Club and what it's doing in our community, please visit our table over here, connect with us on social media, join one of our monthly luncheons. We'd be glad to share with you what goes on in Exchange Club. In conjunction with this ceremony, the Exchange Club is hosting an essay competition for all students in the San Ramon Valley. These are grades 1 through 12. Flyers are available again at our table. and there's cash prizes in 3 different grade levels. The theme for the essay competition this year asks our youth to ponder the sacrifices of the spouses, children, and other family members of first responders. How we can give meaningful thanks to the families of our first responders. And I want to thank Greg Marvel, an Exchange Club member and former board member of the San Ramon Valley Unified School District, for his continued leadership with this competition. And finally, I'd like to thank the volunteers from our club that have helped put on this event again this year, and to the leader of those volunteers, who will be our MC for the remainder of the program. It's my honor to now introduce you to a past president and the founding member of the Exchange Club of San Ramon Valley, and 5-time and current mayor of the town of Danville, Karen Stepper.
It's really special to see so many people here today. You know, a half an hour ago, nobody seemed to be coming, and I thought, no, we can't forget, right? And I wanted to make a special announcement about the Pearl Harbor survivors and sons and daughters of Pearl Harbor survivors that are here, have them stand, because they, member in 1941, said we would never forget. But the sons and daughters say, keep ever alert. And we're sitting here today, just about a month from almost letting go of the people who caused this tragedy in 2001. And it was you who said, don't do that. These people need to face justice. Yep. And we have so many loved ones that we're remembering here today. And I'm so glad that you're here and that we have such beautiful music for you and things that help you remember in a really positive way. So thank you for joining us. Did you stand, the Pearl Harbor survivors and sons and daughters? I didn't see you stand. Okay, now we're not going to make Kathleen the president stand, because she's you're standing. Thank you. I am going to introduce people and ask you only to clap when I clap, so I will go fairly quickly, but it is important that people are here and that you have a chance after the ceremony to talk to those people that you've heard from or want to talk to again. The opening was fabulous with our Bagpiper, which was Henry Cooper this year. He did a great job. And the police and fire guard. John Youngblood is still leading that, and that was also beautifully done. So a lot of our mission is to educate students. And one thing I don't know that Tim said, that Greg Marvel also doubled the first prize on those essay contests. So if you're one of these people in the choir, you want to be in this essay contest, because we do this ungraded, and the #1 in high school will get a $1,000 prize for writing about this. So it is definitely worth your while to put your heart into it, to know what it means. So our mission, because it's so much as students, that's why we have so many students in this ceremony. So all these scouts and the Heritage Girls, let's have a big hand for them and their leaders. It is truly hard to remember 23 years ago, but these singers have made it very special for all of us. And when they bear our 50 flags, we get them out once a year, these 50 American flags, they're doing it in your honor too, because you are the ones who came here today. A special thank you to the sponsors, and we'll just have them stand up and hold their hand up all at once. As I say the name, we have the Fire Protection District, which is represented by Chris Parsons. We have the town of Danville, represented by Chief Allan Shields. We have the Heritage Bank of Commerce, Tim White. The Wreath sponsor, Dennis Steiner of Graham Hitch Memorial. He also provides the yellow roses for our Gold Star families. The ice cream sponsors, come on kids, this is your part. This is Uri Eliyahu of NGO, and he does this every year for all of us. Thank you, Uri. And the PG&E scholarship sponsor, which is Sarah Yo. I think she might be here now. She's coming a little bit late, but that makes a big difference for what we can have a college as well as this one today. And finally, the town of Danville provided the venue, and of course that's our town manager, Joe Calabrigo. So, thank you. Today, we have shared this day with people who are Gold Star families, and we will introduce them later. But Gold Star families, some people don't still know what that means. You're a Blue Star family, and we have a wonderful table. If you have somebody serving in the military currently, and it's your son or daughter, if you're a Gold Star family, it means you had somebody serving in the military, and they passed away. And so every day they get up, and that's what they say, and that's what they remember. So it's easy for us to get up, no matter how tired we are, when we remember the special people who trained their sons and daughters to defend America. In fact, one of my doctors recently, just her son today is doing the crucible. In fact, 2 of them from our valley are doing the crucible right now to become certified to go forward in the Marine Corps. And so we are so proud of the people who have trained their families to love America. And so big hand for those people that we will introduce later. I'm going to introduce right now the, well, of course, you know how many people are gone, 2,977. But this is the first time I remembered to bring my flag. In 2006, when I was mayor, the livery and mercantile people gave me a flag that had all the names of those who passed away on 9/11. And that's over there behind that, in front of that tree, thanks to Sabine finally getting it to stand. All the names are on there. And maybe you know somebody on that flag, but it's a pretty special one for me. I would like to go next to introducing the people who are representing our elected people and are ones that we are in fact remembering today. And the first one, I'm going to have the 3 people come up. For Chris Parsons is here for the San Ramon Valley Fire Department, because the fire department lost 343 people on that day. And I see one of our former speakers back there. Can you raise your hand too? Yes, it was, he went for 3 months, I think, afterwards to help back in New York, and he's a fabulous person, and the speaker lives in Danville. So, Chris, if you could say a few words for the fire district. Is there anyone else who's a firefighter here today, or maybe has a son who's a firefighter, wants to stand up in favor of the fires? Because we want to thank them for what they're doing, so...
Thank you, Mayor Sepper. Good afternoon. My name is Chris Parsons. I'm currently a battalion chief with San Ramon Valley Fire, and I've been a firefighter for 17 years. I was getting ready for school at Cal High when the September 11th attack on the World Trade Center took place. When asked to speak here today, I knew exactly the message that I wanted to share with you all. I wanted to open a window so that you all could get a glimpse into the American Fire Service and the significance of 343. Maybe you've seen it on a bumper sticker or a t-shirt, or maybe you know what it means, but for anybody that doesn't, 343 firefighters were killed on September 11th. After the first plane struck the World Trade Center, the FDNY dispatch launched what can only be described as an armada. 121 engines, 62 ladder trucks, 100 ambulances, 750 members of the FDNY responded. While en route, they all saw firsthand what most of us only saw on the news. Black smoke pumping out of the upper third of the North Tower. Command posts were set up, staging areas were established, assignments were given, firefighters went to work. The firefighters and command staff in the lobby of the tower knew that they weren't going to be able to put out that fire. And when you listen to the interviews of firefighters that survived, they also knew that they were going to lose a lot of firefighters that day. But their objective was simple: to evacuate as many people as they could and save as many lives as possible. At 9:03 a.m., the second plane struck the South Tower, and there were now 2,000 people trapped a quarter-mile high. As the battalion chiefs in the lobby were assigning fire companies, the crews were heading up the stairwells. They were forcing doors, knocking down fire, and attempting to get people trapped above the fire away down. And remember, the firefighters climbing those stairs knew full well that they may not go home. And not one of the 750 FDNY members on scene refused to go in. The significance of 343 to the American Fire Service is right there. Every day, men and women across the country take the oath to protect their communities, knowing full well the risks involved. 343 reminds us of those FDNY firefighters that gave the ultimate sacrifice to save the lives of others. 343 reminds us of the responsibilities that we have in our own communities. And 343 honors the spirit of the American Fire Service that is alive and well today. Thank you.
Next, we'd like to recognize the people who lost their lives on 9/11, who are our police officers and police fighters. And I'm going to introduce Chief Shields from the town of Danville to come and speak. Anybody else who is here, who is in the police department here or somewhere else, could you please stand and be recognized? Okay. Lieutenant Transu, thank you. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Allan Shields, Chief of Police for the town of Danville, and I want to thank everyone for coming. I also want to thank Karen and the Exchange Club for putting this on. If people aren't driving the momentum to remember, we won't. And so I'm very appreciative that every year this event takes place. Blue Star, Gold Star moms, so I feel like I've always been on the selfish end of risk. In other words, I've always been the one that is the part of the family that puts himself at risk, whether it's in the Air Force going overseas or in my job as a police officer. My kids are now 15, 18, and 21. And so they're in the wheelhouse. And of course, as a military father, I'm trying to convince them to go. And I can't imagine, but I'm getting a little bit more of a picture of what it's like to send a son or daughter off and maybe potentially have them pay the ultimate price for the freedom that we all enjoy. So I appreciate your loss, and I appreciate everything that you've done. You know, I had a good fortune actually back in 2017 to go to a place called the FBI National Academy. Now, it's not where they create agents. It's next door, but it's where they create law enforcement professionals, and they invite people from all over the world. I had a good experience to visit with a lot of my friends from New York City, and I was pretty curious. There's a lot of thought, and there's a lot of trauma, and there's a lot of care that goes into their lives. And so I wanted to know what it was like on that day. And so I would ask, and everybody would give me a different experience. Everybody would say, you know, I was on my way to work. I was in the subway. I was on the bus. I was driving in. I was at work. I responded here. These are the jobs that I had. But the one thing that those law enforcement officers, every single one of them told me was they weren't called to that in the morning. It was an unexpected event. They woke up that morning like every other morning. They kissed their loved ones. They said goodbye with the expectation that they're coming back. And what they saw with some of their friends is that they didn't come back. And so I remember, you know, if we want to take two things away from that, we want to look, and we want to make sure that we take away the service and the resilience of those people on that day. I can't help actually but think of, you know, our own mission statement here in the town, and that's to deliver superior municipal services that make people's lives better. And then, you know, I see my CPC family over here, and I think of our mission statement there, which is for the Valley, which is being for others like God is for us can change the world. And being for other people and serving other people means putting people first. It means standing from a place of humility, which if you're in law enforcement, if you're in fire, if you're in the military, that is the ground that you stand on. And you stand on that ground every single day, and you do that for the benefit of others. And when I talked to those friends at the National Academy and asked them what it was like on that day, you know, they would remark on how many heroes showed up, how many people from within that building that were just on their way to work as a business professional were helping people out, carrying people out. And I don't think anyone in that building had planned for that event. No one woke up thinking that was going to happen, but everybody was prepared, and really, the American spirit shone through that day. So today is a day where we remember what happened. We honor those that gave their lives on that day. We honor those that went overseas afterwards. But it's also a time for us to look and recommit to our values on what it's like to be an American, what it's like to serve other people, what it's like to muster up the courage in the face of chaos and fear. Because when I spoke to my friends at the National Academy and they talked about going in there, as much as they may have felt it, no one actually talked about fear. They talked about how they needed to go. They felt compelled to go. So they put fear aside, they mustered up the courage, and they went in to help others. So I think today, this is a day that we should really look and remember and honor those, recommit to our values, and think, what can we do moving forward to improve the person next to us? And here's what I'll challenge, as a way to try to be ready for tomorrow, what tomorrow may bring. And if you look at our firefighters and you look at our police officers, we train all the time. And we train all the time because we want it to be a pattern. When chaos happens, we want to be able to respond without thinking. We just want to go. And so what I'll say is this. Take the time today or tomorrow and just do something difficult. Build your resilience. Build a resilient mind that says, when a tragedy happens, when chaos strikes, I'm ready for it. When I look at all of our Boy Scouts back here with the flags, that's a pattern of service. That's a pattern of service that you don't want to break. And it's one that I'm pleased to see. With that, thank you all for coming, and God bless America.
And of course, we thank all the Scouts that are here, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, Heritage Girls, those who help actually volunteer. We have a police department that's out there telling every one of you, you should know one of us personally in an emergency because we're there to help. And so that was really nice what you said, Chief. Thank you. I'd like to next talk a little about, just in general, what has happened with the World Trade Towers, the Pentagon, Pennsylvania, all those different things, because it was such a pivotal turning point in our voluntary military defense, on which we are so dependent. But I will remind you that those that went off to the global war on terrorism is something that we're going to hear a little bit about today with our speaker. And it's a very difficult and different time today than it was back when they signed up and we just had 2001. So I would like to recognize the veterans and military support groups that are in our building in Danville. It is for the entire valley, San Ramon Valley. And I want you to know how many groups are so actively thinking and working for you today that worked for you back then as well. So hold your applause and I'll have them stand. First of all, the BFW Post 75, Allan Kalin, standing for commander today. Our American Legion, and the person standing as commander today is Elizabeth Freitas. Mike Feddersen of the Marine Corps League. The president of the Vietnam Veterans Diablo Valley, vice president, is here today, Dennis Jacovelli. Now I have at least 4 people waving their hands and standing, right, Dennis? That's the core group of our building, but it is also used by our Blue Star moms. It is used by our combat soldiers. It is used by the MOA, Military Order of World Wars, and MOA is the military. Sorry, you said that backwards. Okay, it's Patty Wernat, and she's the Military Officers Association of America. So I didn't want to say that backwards. Thank you for joining us, Patty. And I don't know if Ron Lowe is here today. He has been the director of the Veterans Memorial Building Directors, which just recently has been Eric Ardell. And I see Eric is here as well. So could we have a big hand for all of those people? just kind of a special thought for the Sentinels of Freedom, because the reason we have this wonderful speaker today is because Mike Conklin and Peggy Conklin have both been completely involved with this since 9/11, I guess you would say. You know, having 3 sons in the airborne, that's pretty special. And today we have somebody that he's found who has the gumption, the courage, and the freedom to come forward and get well from a story that he'll tell you today. But not everybody can do that. It is such a hard journey. And so he's going to tell you about his journey, and we're just delighted to meet him and hear how he's helping all the veterans who are coming back today. So please give a big hand to all those veterans organizations. Okay. I'd like to recognize your elected leaders in this community, and we're not recognizing all of them, but we do each time ask for the 2 mayors from our community and the supervisor, so that represents Alamo, Danville, and San Ramon. So I'd like to call them to the podium. Dave is where right now? Okay, Dave's going to speak from his speech. He's the outgoing mayor of San Ramon, but he's been there for 8 years. And Supervisor Andersen, and she's, of course, a supervisor too. And then I'm the mayor of Danville. So instead of going last, I think I'll just go first and tell you, I'm not going to give a long speech because I get to speak all day here today. I'm going to tell you how amazing it is in this community that every year we can do a different program in this program. We have the same wonderful choir, because it's amazing, but we have a different program. And so we've had people that were firefighters, people that went back to clean up all the things that happened in New York, people who were staying in that Marriott between the 2 towers, and what a frightening thing that was. We've had the press, it was the TV, the news, and all of them did a panel on 9/11 and what it was like. We have the young man who saw his uncle, who was executed, who was the pilot of Flight 93, and he was one of our speakers, and he works in our valley. The FBI has come a couple of different programs. The Coast Guard, which is the greatest ever boat lift that's occurred, was after 9/11 anywhere. The police department, the Pearl Harbor survivors who have spoken, the major who's in the audience, who is an Exchange Club person and has a wonderful flag over there on that table. So why don't you just go ahead and stand? You've spoken in 2016 and 2021 Air Force. And lastly, and not lastly, because I'm not giving you the whole list, a pilot, there was a commercial pilot, and you found what a compelling story he also had because of the things that happened on that day, and the fact that all airlines had been brought down that day. So anyway, I am really pleased to be here. It's just an absolute honor to do this ceremony. And now I am very glad to share it with the other 2 people in our community. And I guess next we'll go to Dave Hudson, and you will need to read this.
Okay, thank you. First, I want to thank Karen for inviting me and apologize for not being here last year. But I'm going to blame the hospital. I asked for a hall pass and they wouldn't give it to me. I think if we went around to everybody here today and said, what do you remember about 23 years ago? Probably have 50 different stories. But there are some the bravery and the courage that went on that day, you just can't brush away. It was just tremendous. I mean, you put yourself in their shoes and you just have to wonder. But the leadership that went on also, I know Karen mentioned the pilot. Can you imagine the guts it took to ground all the airlines, put everybody on the ground, make that call? But if you didn't, the lives that you would have lost. I know for me, I remember my day, 9/11 was a day just like today, except it was a Tuesday, so we had city council that night. except the mayor didn't have the brains to cancel the meeting. Yeah. What would be the odds that you'd have the same mayor 23 years later? But I remember some of the stories. I was awakened that morning not by the towers of the Pentagon. I got a call from my city manager, and you talk about leadership. And he's telling me, Dave, one of our residents is on Flight 93 and it's been hijacked. So we're sending a police officer up to the house because the press was outside camp just waiting like they were going to see something. You know, I know you got a job to do, but that had to be just terrible for Dina Burnett. And I can't think. I got a call from Herb Moniz telling me this. And the next thing I got was a call from all the council members to cancel the meeting. But it was the wrong thing to do. It's like Rudy Giuliani said, you don't change anything or they win. But those two things stick in my mind. I was thinking about it last night, and the gutsy call, how'd you like to be in the lineup? You're flying out of Kennedy, and you get the call, come back to the gate. The airport's closed. These kind of things that happened that day just took a lot of courage and a lot of leadership. I'll never forget that guy that grounded all the planes. Then I started getting calls from all my wife's friends. Where's Barber? Well, she was at the airport. Fortunately, they grounded all the planes. These are things you just don't live through easily, and you never forget them. So, Karen, thank you. I'll come back every year if you want.
You didn't. I'm sure he didn't ruin it. I just have to say it louder. So, Dave has had his own battle, as most of you know, and he had a stroke when we were just doing our job in Washington, D.C. together, advocacy for all of you. And he has battled with such courage for this last couple of years, and he's still going. And so I said, you couldn't come last year, but I want you to come this year, Dave. You're coming, right? He says, yep, I'll be there. So thank you. Thank you, Barbara.
Good afternoon, good evening, everybody, and a special thank you to Mayor Stepper, who each year brings this event to our community to ensure that we do not ever forget. Now, those of us, as been mentioned by most speakers, really remember where we were 23 years ago, the moment we either saw on television, on radio, heard something, or received a phone call telling us about the horrific attacks, the loss of lives in New York, in Pennsylvania, in a field, in Washington, D.C. Our lives were changed forever. On that morning, as a mother of 6 children ranging in age at the time from 3 to 15 years old, I wondered what their future would be. My job as a mother was to reassure them that they would be all right, that we were safe, that I could protect them. But I wondered, how would this impact their childhood? What sort of lives would they have? Would they be entering a war? Would my 4 sons be called up to fight? Would we have the food and supplies we needed? Was the West Coast under imminent threat of attack? But in the hours that followed, we as a country persevered. We were safe. We were unified. Political parties were put aside. We were one country, indivisible. There was a sense of patriotism that I had never seen in my life, and I have not felt since that time. Sadly, today there is a lot of divisiveness. Politics have never been more polarizing. This afternoon, as I sat at a county commission meeting, one commissioner asked, now why didn't we start with the Pledge of Allegiance? And I mentioned at most of the meetings I attend, we do start with the Pledge of Allegiance. But another member said, I don't really like the Pledge of Allegiance. I don't like its history. I don't like its background. And I just very firmly but kindly said, this is something where we are affirming much more than the history of the Pledge of Allegiance, but in fact, our patriotism to our country. If he didn't believe that he wanted to say it, the rights and freedoms that have been fought for, give him the right not to. We will take it up at a future meeting. However, this is something as a community that gives us the opportunity to be an indivisible group of citizens. There are many opportunities in our country, our state, our local government, our communities to be offended, to object to the opinions of others, to look for what makes us different rather than what we have in common. And my hope is in the weeks ahead, especially leading up to political elections in November, we will focus back on the things that we can all agree upon. Kindness, honesty, integrity, respect. As mentioned by the police chief, serving others, helping others, focusing on the things that bring us together rather than the things that we perceive divide us. Let's focus back to the feelings we had 23 years ago as we overcame the sorrow, as we overcame the shock, as we overcame the loss of loved ones, to recognize that the first responders, the heroic individuals who are out there entering buildings, weren't asking, what's your political affiliation? What do you feel about this political issue? They were just there, helping, serving, no matter what. Let's focus on the gratitude that we have in this nation for our freedoms. We are Americans, one nation, under God, indivisible, and we shall continue to be. Thank you.
As the choir is getting ready to begin, I wanted to introduce the other people who are representing you here tonight, and they're over in this front section. Newell Arnrich, Councilmember Danville; Renee Morgan, Councilmember Danville; David Fogg, Councilmember Danville; Mark Armstrong, Councilmember Sandra Road; Shelley Clark, School Board Member; and Susanna Ordway, School Board Member; Rachel Hurd, School Board Member. All of those people are here because they care so deeply about our country. And I think I did forget Robert Storr. Okay, Robert Storr. Okay. Robert, stand. Thank you. They're all here to help you and answer any questions that you have afterwards, but mostly they're here to remember how important this day is. So I will go on to, hopefully you all have gotten a program here tonight, I hope. I'm going to ask the choir go next because they're just amazing. This is again led by Rosalind, Neisinger, Monte, Vista. Thank you.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans, like we fall,
very pleased right now to introduce our main speaker, our keynote speaker, Brian Vargas. He lives in our community. At 14, he was at Antioch High School. I'm going to let him tell you the story, what that did to him to watch those towers fall with his entire high school class, what the feeling was, how he went on to be one of our heroes. And he is a hero who did have a major injury while he was over in the war in Afghanistan. And today, you can't even tell that, but you can tell that if you're him, because the pain and the suffering from friends and from your own pain never go away. But you find the strength in the people, like I said, like Sentinels of Freedom, like Mike Conklin, that brings you back here, gives you a home, education, and a reason to be. And his reason to be is to help other veterans. So I'm going to let him tell his story, and we're very proud of him and pleased to have him here today. He's working in San Francisco at the community college. He's got a degree from Berkeley. All happened after he got back from battle, and has his master's degree in social service. So welcome, Brian Vargas, and welcome to your wife, Monica. Thank you.
On, and I think everyone in the world at that point was watching what was going on. But we were sitting there watching and witnessing this unforgettable act of violence as 19 hijackers took control of 4 airplanes, turning them into instruments of warfare. And that right there had us all sitting in fear. The principal came over the loudspeaker and told us all to go home. Asked anybody, that was needed to talk with, anybody to reach out to somebody and talk with them. But I very distinctly remember that walk back to my house after, school being canceled that day, and thinking, I'll touch on it a little bit, but thinking to myself, this is definitely going to be a huge impact in my life, here to come in the near future, just about 4 years later. As a lot of us know today, right, that 2 of those planes struck our World Trade Centers, towers, 1, 2, and 7. 1 hit the Pentagon, and the 4th, Flight United 93, crashed in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, because of those passengers that acted bravely to deter that attack, ultimately gave their lives that day. And it's a little hard to kind of imagine what you would go through on a plane that has been taken out of the control of the pilot, right? You feel kind of like when you're waking up from a scary nightmare and you have that loss of breath. You don't know what's left and what's right, what's up and what's down. So I can only imagine how those individuals felt that day. Our nation lost almost close to 3,000 people, including 343 firefighters on 9/11, as thousands more Marine soldiers and sailors, airmen that lost their lives as they strapped up their boots and deployed to combat zone in response. Many of those firefighters spent days and hours and days, searching through rubble from the buildings, searching for people and searching for survivors. And those days that you sit there thinking, I'm waking up in a nice cozy bed, like our chief said, thinking doing something that's a little bit hard, kind of work on that grit and that resilience that helps us move forward a little bit further and grow. For me, September 11, 2001 was the fuel to the fire that was burning inside of me since my youth. My father was in the Marine Corps, infantry as well, and I always wanted to, make him proud. And I knew that college wasn't in my immediate future after high school. I barely graduated, so definitely wasn't going to college right after high school. But with some motivation throughout my senior year of high school, I was able to graduate, and I joined the Marine Corps in 2005. Leaving for boot camp in July of 2005, after 3 grueling months as our devil dog over here in uniform. I can't help but spot you out over here, man. Thank you for being here today. After 3 grueling months, I graduated and earned the Eagle Globe and Anchor. And in October 2005, I was sent off to Camp Pendleton for the infantry school to go train to be an infantry marine. And I figured, hey, you know, I'm doing something right, following in the steps of my father. And ultimately, I knew that, you know, my father fought in the first Desert Storm back in the 91 and whatnot. And you know, so many years later, his son would be out there doing the same thing so quickly. And I ended up landing in Iraq on September 3rd, as it was on September 1st, 2006, with 3rd Battalion, 4th Marines, Lima Company, just 3 years after the attack. 3 years, 4 years. I'm not good at math, guys. So don't worry about it. I'll be off by, you know, a decimal or two. But I deployed with a goal of preventing another attack on our home soil ever again. And I know that sounds pretty naive to think as a young 19-year-old that you solely, individually can prevent another major terrorist attack in this country. But that was one of the things that I ultimately hoped I would get done was, you know, preventing evil from prevailing in our home country. But after countless days and hours of, let's see, yeah, I lost my place really quick, sorry. Naive as that may sound, I truly believe that there was evil in the world, and God had put it in his plan for me to eliminate that threat as an infantryman. But after countless days of intense, chaotic firefights, right around end of November, after Thanksgiving 2006, I ended up getting shot by an enemy sniper on January 17th, 2007 in the city of Hit in the Allan province of Iraq. That day will forever changed my life, where, you know, there's life before this incident, and then there's life after. And for me, life after has been full of ups and downs. As my wife Monica definitely knows, I almost, you know, I almost died that night, or it was morning rather, but I almost died that morning. It was nighttime for her here in the States when that happened. I ended up being medically evacuated back to our forward operating base after this 48-hour observation post that we were on that day. It seems crazy to think that getting shot so closely links to, you know, the Twin Towers attacks on September 11th, but ultimately all of us that went and found a recruiter station to go join the Marine Corps, the Army, or the Navy, or whatever branch they chose to go serve in, how do I say it, can trace our steps basically back to one event, and that event being those attacks that changed our country's life for the same way that the attacks in Pearl Harbor in 1944 happened, right? Or 41, rather. Ooh, thank you. December 7th, though. December 7th. I was like, wait a minute. Whew. I almost got my dates wrong. I'll push for it later, right? I'll push for it later. As I was medically evacuated and made my way back to the States, I knew my life would never be the same again. And after spending 30 days at Walter Reed in the East Coast, I made it back to Camp Pendleton and started my long journey of rehabilitation over there in Camp Pendleton near at the Wounded Warrior Battalion. And I definitely knew that I had met some pretty special people being at the Wounded Warrior Center there. We were all a bunch of wounded Marines that were not able to, you know, redeploy out with our fellow units. So we were being round together and put in one barracks with very little leadership overseeing us. So, you know, we got into a lot of trouble, but we definitely helped. We helped each other get through it. I ended up getting retired from the Marine Corps August 30th, 2009. And when we think of September, we think of all the tragedy. September 11th, we think of all the tragedy that this attack that is attached to that is attached to the attack, but I've learned from first-hand experience that with every bad comes some good. One of those good things that came out of this tragedy was the Department of Defense's Department of the Veterans Affairs Education Benefit, the post-9/11 GI Bill, and which I personally had the privilege to use quite a bit to help me get through my higher education. I started college in 2010 at Diablo Valley College, and shortly after met the Sentinels of Freedom in 2012, and they really helped motivate me to get my act together and really focus on school and get there. Ooh, scared me. I was extremely lucky to have Monica during that time. I cried in her lap many a times thinking that I could not get through college, but luckily I made it through Berkeley, undergrad and grad school, so that was definitely a feat to be done. But since 2009, over about 3 million veterans have used the post-9/11 GI Bill, and honestly, this is one of the things that brings our community together because we are, how do I say it? We're able to look at we're able to see how September 11th helped change the landscape of our higher education opportunities for our veterans that went out and served. So in my opinion, 9/11 is attached to all of us here sitting here today, because that benefits so many of our young veterans that have been able to go out, get higher education degrees, and go into the community and be, positive, productive members of our society. Today marks a moment in time 23 years ago when we collectively as a country put aside our differences and united as one nation. But what I want you all to take away is this, I don't want us to wait for another tragedy, big or small, such as this one, to make us unite again. So many of you here today were not born yet, or were too young to recall the chaos that followed. But we have all benefited from the sacrifices made by those who we lost, and those who answered the call of duty, either joining the military, becoming a first responder, firefighter, police officer, or EMT. The heroes of 9/11 who searched tirelessly for bodies buried in rubble and steel, or carried fellow survivors down hundreds of stairs, down the World Trade Centers. We thank you and are eternally grateful. I ask you to reflect today on what it is you can do. What can you do to honor those we lost, and to honor the brave men and women who stepped up to say, sign me up, send me. Support your local veterans organizations like the VFWs, the Sons of Freedom, the American Legions, the Blue Star Moms, Gold Star Moms, that work tirelessly to make sure our veterans' transitions home is not as hard as it once was. In closing, I want to thank you all for your time, and I pray that we never see an event like this again. But if we do, I know we can face it together. And just looking at this in my faith, I think of Matthew chapter 5, verse 4, where Jesus said, "Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted." So thank you all today for mourning with us, and looking forward to a brighter future as we work as a community to enjoy the freedoms and become better each day. So thank you for having me today.
Did you hear another verse in there? Sign me up, send me, and then with a purple heart. Awesome. What a wonderful message, Brian. But your life is a wonderful message, because every day you're helping those veterans that come back. And someday go on to Sentinels of Freedom and read about him and when he gave the graduation speech for Berkeley. So wonderful job. Thank you. And now we're pleased to have the barbershop half of the choir. Thank you.
If tomorrow all the things were gone, I'd work for all my life, and I had to start again with just my children and my wife. I thank my lucky stars to be living here today. 'Cause the flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave their right to me. And I'll gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the
I'm going to look at Lee Halverson said we might get a flyover. I didn't know we were for sure. That's pretty awesome. I think that was quite a punctuation to an amazing song. One of my favorite songs. Beautifully done. Thank you very much for the choir. Keep going. It's hard to compete with 3 planes going over. But if anyone can do it, you just did it. So I wanted to tell you I'm a special friend, Roxanne Langevin. She's coming forward right now as we speak. She's the mother of Colonel Sean Langevin, 173rd Airborne Brigade Combat Team, U.S. Army. And she will tell you more about her son and about the other Gold Star moms that are here today. But she's a very special person, and when we go downtown to the sip and stroll, we aren't thinking about the things we're thinking here tonight. We're just having a really good time together. I don't know what she's doing behind me, but she's a lot of fun. And you know, her heart's in every time she speaks. She has spoken to other cities before. This is the first time she's addressed us, and we're really proud to have her here today. Her son, her granddaughter, and my grandson graduated together from middle school 2 years ago.
Well, thank you all for being here. Brian, thank you for sharing your story. My heart goes out to you because I know what you're feeling and what you go through every day. So appreciate you being here and sharing your story. I'm the proud Gold Star mother of Corporate, not Colonel Karen. Sean would be happy up in heaven hearing that. Corporal Sean Kenai Aldrich Langevin. This year, Sean would have celebrated a milestone birthday, his 40th, on August 17th. But Sean will always be forever 23 in my mind and heart, because he was killed on 9 November 2007 in an ambush attack in Aranis, Afghanistan, along with 4 other paratroopers and a Marine. 9 November, 9/11. A reminder to me of the closeness to, and as a result of that tragic and dreadful day that shook our country to its core. Sean loved to have fun, any adventure that presented itself, and loved his friends, family, and God. With his beautiful smile, infectious laugh, and influencing and fun-loving personality, he grabbed your heart always, and everyone wanted to be around Sean. I am so proud of the man he became. His desire to be in law enforcement had led him to enlist in the Army in February of 2006. While he was in boot camp, and I want all of you scouts to pay attention to this. In February of 2006, he was in boot camp. While he was in training, he did sneak a call to us, my husband and I, and he wanted to thank us for pushing him to continue in scouting. He became an Eagle Scout. He basically said all of the merit badges that he completed, everything that he did in scouting, helped him get through his boot camp. There was a lot that he learned that he was able to use at that. So please continue on in scouting. I know he struggled. He wanted to get out, and we basically said, find something better. And of course, I knew he wouldn't. So there you go. After boot camp, he was assigned to the 173rd Airborne Brigade Combat Team in Vicenza, Italy. Sean deployed to Afghanistan in May 2007. He was an honorable soldier, a leader, and a warrior, as defined by the soldiers who fought side by side with him, earning 2 Purple Hearts, 2 Bronze Stars, 1 with Valor, the Army Commendation Medal, and many other service medals. Over the last 16 plus years, I have been blessed to have a piece of Sean with me. His daughter Zoe was born 3 months after he was killed. She is a constant reminder for me of Sean. I will always feel his presence through her, as she has his same heartwarming and loving personality, but absolutely no desire for high adventures like her dad. Tonight, I'm honored to be in the presence of 2 other Gold Star moms, who I call friends, and my Gold Star sisters. The bond that we have can never be explained due to the tremendous support we offer each other through our journey. And I'm proud to introduce them here tonight. Mary Tollefson. Mary is the proud Gold Star mother of PFC Benjamin Tollefson. Ben was in the Army and was killed in combat on December 31st, 2008 in Iraq at the forever young age of 22. Liz Jeffries. Liz is the proud Gold Star mother of PFC Adrian Jeffries. Adrian was in the Marine Corps. He died on August 29th, 2021, while home on leave at the forever young age of 24. Typically, another Gold Star mother, Yolanda Vega, would be present at this 9/11 memorial ceremony. She spoke here last year. Sometimes she sang. But I have some sad news to share about Yolanda. After years of battling cancer, Yolanda was reunited on June 17th with her son, Senior Airman Jonathan Vega Yellner. Jonathan was in the Air Force and was killed in combat on April 29, 2008 in Afghanistan at the forever young age of 24. And Patty Harris, Blue Star mom, I know you were very close to Yolanda. If you could stand and accept the rose for Yolanda, that would be great. Thank you. Yolanda devoted so much of herself to support other Gold Star mothers and families through their grief and healing process. Also near and dear to her heart, she assisted many veterans in so many ways through her Gold Star journey. Yolanda honored her son until her last breath. Yolanda, rest in peace while in the arms of your son. As Gold Star moms and families, and the families of those who died as a result of 9/11, and our servicemen and women who experienced tragic loss of their battle buddies, I know we all share these same feelings and emotions. You don't just lose someone once. You lose them every time you open your eyes to a new dawn. And as you awaken, so does your memory. So does the jolting bolt of lightning that rips into your heart knowing that they are gone. Losing someone is a journey, not a one-off. You never get over it. There is no end to our loss. There is only a learned skill on how to stay afloat because it never washes away. I will always, until my last breath, keep Sean's memory and legacy alive, grateful and proud of his service and sacrifice to our country, sharing him with our community near and far at every opportunity that presents itself, just like tonight. We can never forget 9/11, the many lives taken on that day and the days and years that followed of those who served, fought, and died for all of us, our country. A hero remembered never dies. We say their names, and we must honor them always. PFC, Benjamin Tollefson. PFC, Adrian Jeffries. And for Yolanda, it is my honor to say her son's name on her behalf because she no longer can. Senior Airman Jonathan Vega Yelner. And my son, my hero, until my last breath, Corporal Sean Kanai Aldrich Langevin. God bless you all. Thank you all for being here. And God bless our freedoms and this beautiful country that we call the United States of America.
We are going to have the laying of the wreath in memory of all those who have gone before us. And I'll ask all those people to come forward from the end of the wreath. I'm trying to figure out who's over there now. We're a little bit out of order. And this will conclude our ceremony. There'll just be an announcement at the end. So I'm sure that everybody is over there. It's our intention to have those in there. Be from the San Ramon Valley Fire Protection District, from the Police Department, from our VSO commanders that were introduced recently, from our Marine Corps League recruiter, Sergeant Tanner Walbridge. And we will end with a salute by our bagpiper again, who is going to play Amazing Grace, and Joe McHale, who is going to do taps. His son went off to college, so I asked the dad to do it. He's the one that taught him how to do it, and we're very honored to have this wreath start right now. So would you all please stand?
you all so much for being here today. We're going to ask that our scouts proceed out first. We are hosting ice cream over here, so please stay and mingle with your community. Pick up a flyer for our Exchange Club essay contest. There's a QR code on the flyer. But please stay, mingle, have some ice cream. After that, we're all going to go to Karen's house for dancing.